I'm a strong believer in not so much about restoration but preservation of the history. It is really important to the town because, you know, the main street is there and that is the main attraction for the town. But in particular, there are some things which do have to have restoration worked on, and one of those major buildings is the Clunes former free lending library. And that will be a major project, but it was initially developed as a place for people to learn, for the average worker to learn. And this is part of what we are hoping to bring back to it as a learning centre, in conjunction with primarily Federation Uni, to give people an opportunity to go on to further education who may not have been able to complete VCE and all of that. Primarily it allows them to show how clever they actually are in their real world, how they can use their experiences of life to help them study and obtain a higher education. Use it for giving support to the neighbourhood house, who also offer tuition and that for secondary school students and primary school students. And I think this is always a wonderful thing. Tutoring is something that I've been fairly well involved in for over 40 years at various times. So it's really important because tutoring for people, whether they be young or old, it's all about helping them develop self-confidence and the confidence to give something a go. And I think having something like it happening in a beautiful historical building like the Clunes former free lending library, where the history of it goes right back to the 1870s, where it became a place, or was developed as a place firstly for people to learn, and then secondly for people to read and use as a place to go and develop their own learning in many ways, I guess. It's definitely prioritised. It's going to be a major project to get it back, because over the last probably 15 years there's been no real maintenance done on it, although there was some work done on the foundations, but we've just completed the conservation management plan, which was presented by World Heritage Architects. So we have a lot of experience, and we've found out more and more about the history of the place that maybe not even people in Clunes knew about. So that's going to be a lot of fun, letting all of that out into the open air. But what Rupert Bland and his group of commissioners, as they were called at the time, really did was to set up something that allowed people, and the working class people in particular, to get there and sort of just show that, you know, they may not have had formal qualifications, but by gee, a lot of them had a lot of great knowledge and a great adaptive. They were able to adapt to different situations, which in a mining village like we were, that was a very, very important skill to have, to be able to apply what you've learnt in one thing to another application.
And the labour market's a very dynamic place today, so enabling people to be more adaptable and flexible with what they can offer is something that's really helpful for them.
Back in my era, most of us took on a trade or a job that you stayed in for virtually the rest of your life. Nowadays, most people could have about as many as 6 or more jobs that they actually perform in their lifetime.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think things like this, where they can show that they can help them to develop the self-confidence to be able to apply those things, I think is really pretty fantastic. And I think that's one of the key things about what we're hoping to be able to do. And when it takes place in a building which has a history of learning and helping people to learn and helping people in the community and being very much a community space as well, then I think that it just feels good when you sit down in there and you start doing something. It just is a great atmosphere in the whole place, which you sit and think, oh gee, I wonder how many other people have been sitting in this room thinking about what they can do. Fortunately, we have this beautiful main street as well, so the history of the buildings in Fraser Street and is strongly linked to the former Free Lending Library, and Fraser Street used to be a very busy part of the town down the northern end than what we are where it is currently. I mean, the main street only has about 3 buildings that are post 1880. I mean, in a nice wide street, that's fantastic. And it you know, our old buildings are also a part of why we are becoming a very good film-friendly town as well, and that brings lots and lots of benefits into the township, because not only do our traders get benefits from it, but our tourism side gets benefits, because this is putting Clunes out and photos of Clunes all over the country, and they're all done beautifully, and the film crews like working here because they've got nice wide streets, but they're very, very historic, and Fraser Street can be set for any period at all that they want. And quite a lot of pardon me, locals have been involved in as extras in a lot of the films and commercials and things like that that have been shot here. So it has a very broad reaching part to support the town, and I think everything that we do should be about supporting the town and supporting the history. The conservation management plan we have received by RBA Architects, it shows all the rules and regulations for historic buildings that you have to meet when you're doing any restoration. It covers everything about what you can do, what you can't do, and what you might be able to do. And it's definitely a case of sitting down and going through this 100+ pages of documentation, working out the process and a broad mission statement. And our basic mission statement will be something along the lines of to restore a historic building to its former glory and for its former use, and that is of education of people in the town. The process from that will then be going through a number of different stages, starting with having to have the foundations re-examined to make sure they're going to last for another 100 years. There's no point in doing this straight away and not getting the long life out of it. After that, there'll be also an audit done of all the fabric, both internal and external, of the building. There is a lot of damage done by vandals and everything, both inside, particularly on the northern side section, half of the building. The southern half is almost usable, except that the toilet facilities are way out of date and there is no heating or anything there, so it could be possible that we look at doing the restoration or maybe even building a separate toilet block so that it doesn't hamper, because current toilet block does not have any historical significance. It also does not provide any facilities for people with disability, So these are a couple of things which will be fairly high on our list to achieve as a first step to make the southern side and the hall usable. After that, we then will be going through, and based on the report we have from the conservation report and also the structural report that we will have finalised, we then will have to work on a process of how we are going to use, if we're going to change the sizes of any of the rooms, or whether we're going to make them one bigger room. There's a lot of decisions still to be made, and a lot of this will be based on two things. One of them will be finance, and we are hoping from the finance to achieve fairly good support from a number of philanthropic organisations, being led primarily by the Hugh Williamson Foundation, who have been very generous to Clunes over the last 20 plus years. And we will also be going through the philanthropic trustees, because we'll be trying to sort of get their support, and then of course once we have support from philanthropic groups, we can then go and seek further support from government organisations. It's very hard to say what total we will be looking for, but we'll probably be looking at something in the region of 20,000 for the foundation support inspections, and probably another 10,000 just to get a report regarding the fabric of the property, both internal and external. We have had money that we've raised, so we already have security system in place now to try and curb some of the vandalism that did go onto the property. So we don't have any income, and until we can get an income, it's going to be very hard to sort of meet some of these other requirements. So we will be looking at fundraising. We'll be looking at a lot of support from the community. Our best support we have to do is from the community. The greatest support is their support of what we're doing. It's just their moral support. When we applied for the Picker project, our project was certainly the most voted for of all the projects in Clunes. Alas, we did not get a grant because we were competing with two big towns. But we have got a lot of the documentation about where we want to go, how we want to get there, already there, and there'll be a lot of this going out into the community as soon as our committee has sat down and fully read and developed our action plan.